Bird! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Wow, it is March 2nd. And you know what that means on my calendar? Because my calendar is up on a 4-month planner. That means I'm 5 days away from seeing all of you all at Pheasant Fest in Kansas City. Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic. Now, I told you last week, most of my sponsors are going to be there. I could just read down the list, and 80% of them are going to be there. That's great. But the title sponsor of this show, On X Hunt, is kind of become the title sponsor of, I don't want to say of Pheasant Fest, but they're throwing a party, okay? They're throwing an after-hours party on Friday, March 7th, 9 p.m. at the Kansas City Convention Center. All you have to do is be an attendee. You don't have to buy a ticket. You're going to get free beer, free live music, and a room full of people just like yourself. You walked the floor, you talked about dogs, you talked about habitat, and now you can just sit back, crack a cold beer, and celebrate 20 years of Quail Forever. Quail Forever is celebrating their 20th birthday. So that's what this is about. It's called The Reign of the Quail. And it's brought to you, like every other adventure in our lives, by OnX Hunt. Now, of course, Gunner Kennels will be there. Garwin will be there. Canine Athlete will be there. Mossberg will be there. Boss won't be there, but I'm going to have some Boss giveaway, some Boss bling at my booth. So come by and see me for that. Pro Plan, of course, Purine is going to be there. I am going to have something to give away from Walton's, and I'm actually going to be doing a quick podcast with Walton's while I'm there, but their booth's not going to be there. Marshwear is going to be there. Arxis Boots going to be there. My 4-wheel camper will be on the floor. My patrons will be stopping by in droves because they know I got some extra stuff for them. I tell you what, if Watermark Brewery would just, let's see, I'd have to get my kegerator somehow installed into my truck. Now, I've got the solar panel, so I've got 110 power. If I have time, I could install my kegerator where the dog kennels are and put a tap on the side of that truck. That would be the only thing better at Pheasant Fest, that we would have Watermark. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm still going with Bodega, and I've had 3 of their beers now in draft form in my kennel. And Watermark Brewery's Bodega, it's going to turn you into a Mexican lager fanatic. It did to me. And it'll do it to you. So when you're in the neighborhood, that means anywhere in southeast Michigan or southwest Michigan, Stevensville, get off at John Beers Road exit. You'll be at the brewery in 3 minutes. And that's only if you don't hit a light. Maybe 4 minutes if you hit a light. I'm going to take my first statement. You'll be there in 2 minutes. You'll be there in 3 minutes if you hit a light. Pull over, go to Watermark Brewery, try their beer, see what I'm talking about. We're going to have a really cool shindig coming up there when the weather gets warmed up. We're going to do, I'll tell you about it later. Because I already went. I was trying to make this as short as possible. This episode has been in the makings for so long. And what I mean by that is I haven't had Justin McGrail on for a Q&A forever. You know, we put the Upland Institute together. We're going to have a booth at Pheasant Fest with the Upland Institute playing on the TV screen. My buddy Trent's going to be there running the remote control, answering questions about it. We're going to have a discount at Pheasants Forever. It'll be a one-time discount. And so if you're at Pheasants Forever, you want to come by and see that, okay? You're going to want to come by and see that because Justin had the great idea he said, when are you leaving for Pheasant Fest? And I said, well, I'll be leaving on Tuesday. I have to get my truck in the building a day early. He said, let's get a podcast done and give everybody something to listen to, because that is my number one request all the time. It was like, when's Justin coming back? Where's Justin? Well, our paths haven't crossed. He's busy, young family. I'm busy, grandkids. It gets complicated, but we made it happen. So you got this to listen to while you're driving. And if that doesn't make you think about getting the Upland Institute, then you're not interested in training your own dog. That's all I can tell you. You'll still find the content fascinating. We cover everything. It's a long one. It's a good one. I love you guys. I love you girls. And I'll see you Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic attendees in 5 days. That's assuming you listen to this on Monday morning. Bye. Let's just have some fun. All right. Hey, guess who's back in the kennel? Mr. Justin McGrail.
Hello.
With his 2-piece glasses. You haven't changed a bit. You got your readers that click open and hang around your neck. So nothing else has changed except you're a year older since the last time I seen you, probably.
It's been a while.
A bit.
Yeah.
It's been a bit. We're going to talk a little bit about everything. Some Upland Institute subscribers have some questions.
Okay.
And you have a couple things you talked to a few people about.
And I got a couple of topics that I thought are probably worth touching on at some point.
Well, let's start with that. What kind of topics?
I thought a friend of mine had a really good idea. This is kind of for the guy who's getting or has a puppy, right?
Okay.
And this is what, March 2nd today?
Yeah.
Okay, so you should have or be working on your plan for between now and fall, right? Yeah. So I thought timing-wise this was pretty appropriate. And he said he operates really well on lists of 3. People can remember that. And he says, give me the 3 most common things that people make mistakes in that puppy window leading up to their first season that they're not aware that maybe they could be doing a better job at. And when I read that, I thought, well, how do I keep this to 3? Right? Because there's a lot to it.
Right.
None of it's difficult.
Right.
But it's about awareness of all the things that your puppy is experiencing for the first times, what those lead to down the road. So a lot of things are being either left out completely or not done sufficiently or correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think human nature is getting worse is to try and go right to the finish line.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not how bird dogs work.
You will go right to the last page of the book and see how the thing came out.
Never have, never will. So I don't think I kept it to 3, but maybe we can group them and we'll call it 3. Okay. High on my list is insufficient, incomplete crate training. It's rampant now. I'm going to say it's probably up to 70% of new dog owners coming to see me for the first time, which means that puppy's probably somewhere between 4 and 7 months old.
Okay.
We're doing an evaluation day, right? 70% of the time, they pull in the driveway, throw it in park, and I look out the window, and that dog is bouncing around loose on the inside of that vehicle. Well, they're trying to skip right to the old dog curled up in the seat.
Right.
So okay. Dogs should always be transported in a crate. They're missing an opportunity to condition that puppy to travel.
Above and beyond safety, obviously.
Safety, for sure.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. It's actually against the law, I think, in the UK to ride around with a...
I think you're right.
They backed the law.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous for everybody. But also, the kiss of death with this is that really sharp puppy and the owner's doing everything right, and he potty trains in the house quickly. He becomes pretty trustworthy quite quickly, and he's still pretty young, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then my puppy's just brilliant. I don't need the crate anymore. So this is coming from a place of love. They feel that not having that be a regular part of the puppy's life, allowing him not to have that experience.
Right.
They're giving him more freedom. Look how much I love you. In return, you'll reciprocate this, right? Which is not how dog brain works.
No.
Here's why it's so important. You need to raise a dog to accept his own time in his own space and be comfortable and calm and content mentally. How many times have you heard someone say that their dog has separation anxiety?
A lot.
A lot. A very small percentage of those dogs were born with separation anxiety. Their owners gave it to them.
They developed it at
They
home.
developed it. That's an environmental thing.
Are we talking about kids, people's kids now,
Well,
or just
I don't
dogs?
know. No, we're talking about puppies.
Okay,
right?
Still on puppies. Okay.
So many people work from home now, and also some people, when they get this puppy, they've been looking forward to this their whole life, and they think, I'm going to go above and beyond. Right? My dog is going everywhere with me. I'm doing everything with me, and that's great, spending lots of time with your puppy is, but you need to balance that out by thorough the first 2 months, I am bombing that puppy with crate time.
He's in that
Half
crate
hour
way
here,
more than he's
hour
out
here.
Yep.
You're interacting with that puppy. It's not going to reflect on any bonding that you have with your dog or
Right.
anything. You're his dude now, or you're his gal now, whatever.
Yeah.
You are the human. You are the center of his world still, and you can have his crate time. Now, if you don't do that, those are the dogs that don't have the ability to cope when they're not the center of attention.
Right.
So, examples, you go out training with a buddy and you're going to run his dog and yours is going to stay in the truck and he's going bonkers.
every Wednesday night.
That's your fault. You did not condition that dog for that experience. We hear the term socialization all the time. Well, what is socialization? It is preparing your dog
For life.
for everything that's going to be part of his life.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Not just people
not just people.
and other dogs on a walk and a leash.
Dog goes to the boarding kennels or the trainers or whatever, right? A kennel run is just a big crate. And for the first time in his life, he's not the center of attention from
Right.
sun up to sundown. He has grown up being able to go demand interaction with his humans at any moment he chooses, right?
Yep.
So by going really heavy on crate training early in life, it's done. It's over. Anytime you need to utilize that for dog management purposes, or your dog has to sit out a hike in the field
Right.
while you run a friend's dog,
Right.
you will not regret it.
Yeah.
You will not regret it. But all these dogs that go wacko in that situation, they weren't born that way. We made them that way
Yeah.
by bailing on crate training too early.
Yep. No, anecdotally too, I remember when you say it's a shame because people miss out or the dog misses out. I remember several times while we were filming, you literally had to have send people's dogs back home.
I give them time.
You
to
give them
settle in.
time, and if they
Yeah.
don't settle in, you know that you're not going to be able to do anything with that dog because that dog is so worried about being separated from.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is not about being annoying to humans, although it can be.
It can't be. It's loud.
But it goes beyond that. It's not good for your dog to be in that frame of mind.
yeah, for hours and hours and
Your
hours.
dog is stressed. He's
Right.
going crazy, right?
Right.
We don't want our dogs to be in that mental state
Yeah,
because of the environment they're in. We want a dog that rolls with whatever comes his way.
exactly.
So we got to do that early. And crate training is, I think, the number one first foundation for that.
Yep.
And I don't care if your dog is perfectly potty trained, but he's still 4 months old, and different crates, different places.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did the first 3 weeks of a puppy for a friend of mine that had some pretty major surgery. And so he wasn't able to do the first 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1 week, this little short hair puppy go right in her crate, curl up, at most a little bit of wine, and then, okay, I'll wait till it's my time to
Right.
do whatever next again.
Right.
But my best advice for people who are just getting puppies or have one coming,
Yeah.
don't put that crate next to your bed.
Yeah.
Put that crate where there's not a lot of stimulus,
Right.
okay? And
Out in the breezeway,
somewhere-
laundry room,
somewhere it's quiet.
away from all the
Where there's
hustle and
not-
bustle.
Where there's not a lot of activity,
Yep.
exactly. And you know how a lot of times people's home crates are there's wide open all wire crates?
Yeah.
Okay, if that's what you got for a home crate, fine. You can use it. Put a blanket over it.
Yeah.
You want it to
100%.
be their little den.
Yep.
You don't want all this stimulation going, and they start fussing. Don't go, oh, it's okay.
Right.
Oh, no, you're just like that freighter ship. Nothing shakes you.
I might have to give one of my sponsors a shout out here, Gunner Kennels, only because I've told people when you put a puppy in a small Gunner kennel and you hit those top and bottom pins on that door, if he does get fussy, he doesn't feel any give.
Oh,
Because if they have that wire crate, they can start pulling and chewing, and if they think they're getting somewhere, that thing's like being locked into a vault.
Yeah.
Within a minute, dog, there's no give anywhere.
that's what I have in my basement is their puppy crate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
It's perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
So
the right-
there.
It's the right size for puppies,
Yep.
which is important. Don't put your little
Puppy in a big
8-pound
junk.
puppy in some greyhound crate or something.
Right, where you can run laps.
Yeah, or where he feels like, if I go all the way to the far corner of this, I can go potty,
Right.
and I'm not in
In
my
the mess.
right.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yep.
it's innate to a dog not to soil where they sleep.
Mhm.
It's our job to keep it that way, right? So
Yeah.
we're not getting into all that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
okay. So that's a big one for me. Number 2, not enough early exploratory nature walks. It's pretty dramatic, the puppies I see that come into me that the owners are thinking, and I'm thinking, we're at age window, introduction to birds, introduction to gunfire.
You kind of have an expectation about what it should look like.
Yeah, and a window that we'd like to at least dip our toes in that and see that this pup's ready for that or not.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've always got the season coming. So those are 2 mandatories, right, before we're going to take our dog to the field in season. The pups that have had a strong amount of those nature walks out there are far more ready for things like introduction to birds and introduction to the gun than the pups who really haven't been outside of their home and their yard environment, right? The reason for that is because now we go to the field, everybody's thinking birds, gun. That puppy is absorbing so many other things for the very first time that he's not in a mental place that he's ready for these other new things, right?
Yeah.
The kind of golden rule I have with puppies is don't layer multiple new things on a puppy in one moment. Right. So, rabbit poop, mouse nest, this smell, they're seeing all that for the first time.
Right.
I think people say sometimes, well, no, I don't have any birds. Does not matter. What I'm talking about is 12 weeks to 16 weeks that month and 16 to 20 in there. You should be taking your puppy for walks. And when I say off lead, I like them dragging a little puppy cord, right? Safety reasons, but also you're introducing that.
Yep.
But roads are the number one thing I worry about. Make sure this is a safe space.
Yep.
And then depending on time of year, the whole idea is to get them comfortable exploring the world.
Right.
So pay attention to the cover.
Yeah.
Don't ask a little guy
to jump over big grass and
tall, thick grass,
this
and that. And so pick your cover accordingly for that. The pups that come in that have had a ton of that, man, they're pretty ready for this in that age window.
Yeah.
The other ones, I have sometimes 2 weeks of things to do with a dog that anybody can do. Nobody needs to be paying me for that. Okay. Now, some people live in like downtown, and they're busy.
And they're going to
go
to you for it.
Well, now there's a time issue.
That's
right.
True. Yeah.
Because they don't have the time to load the dog up, drive 45 minutes.
Yeah, they may only have Saturdays.
So what do they get? 3 of them in a month, and then the kids got soccer, and life sometimes.
And bringing them to the soccer field to watch the kids play soccer is not the same as a puppy walk.
No, but it's worth doing as well.
But it's something. It's other stimuli.
You're getting them out of home.
Yeah.
And the crate training thing. Back to that real quick. Puppy crate should be in your back seat all the time.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of goes back to what I call patience training. You ever see dogs, they throw it in park, the truck shuts off, and you don't let them out, and they start going bonkers. Okay, you failed to condition your dog to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy fix. Anytime you're going to the grocery store or anytime you're going somewhere, load that puppy up, take them, you get out of that truck, walk in the store, run your errands or whatever, come back out, and you drive home. You took him, but you never let him out.
Right.
So you're keeping things balanced.
Right.
Sometimes I get out right away when we go do this or
it's almost like,
I
don't know when it's going to be, but it'll be.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, it's when my buddy's ready.
Right.
Not when I demand.
Not every time I stop the car. Yeah.
You're establishing patterns, and I love working with puppies. And I think the reason is they're pure dog. They have not been influenced yet by anything. And when you know how dog minds work,
right,
and you're able to control what you expose them to and how you condition them, there's no bad stuff in there to try and work your way through.
Right.
It's easy. It's fun, right? But it's those little things, that balance. You got to remember when you're raising a puppy, he is getting used to routines.
Right. That's the key.
So show him all the routines you can think of that are going to be part of his life.
Right.
Yeah. So the walks, again, everybody wants to go right to birds. Birds are the fun part, okay?
Yep.
Do your groundwork first. That'll go well.
Yep.
What else did I have? When you get to the age of a puppy where you're starting to introduce some of our core command words, okay? Recall, whoa, the ability to turn them, change direction for handling in the field down the road. Puppies are natural. You're going to ride natural cooperation through that whole early
Right. That's
stage.
an important thing to mention.
Yeah.
Puppies have that lack of independence and
Yeah.
that dependency of cooperation. So
Yeah.
it seems like they're coming when you call all the time.
Well, they want to know where the human is.
Right. Like,
And-
where you at?
And sometimes, first meet with owner and puppy, and they're, 4 months and change. I say, you been taking them out for runs anywhere? No. Well, why not? Well, we haven't let him off the leash because we're worried he's going to run away.
I know several people.
So I say, only half kidding. If you have a 12 to 16-week-old puppy that truly runs off,
Right.
you don't want that one anyways.
Yeah.
Something's wrong in the head.
Yeah.
A natural puppy brain
I think
wants to know where his
I
human
think a
is.
young coyote would follow you around. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's a kind of, but I think they've never taken that leap of faith, and they're
Right.
they're scared, they're nervous. That's their baby, that's their buddy. They're so just make sure you're in a safe space. Once you do it a couple times, have them trail a little puppy cord, something you can get
That
over.
would be-
You'll realize,
With your experience, of course, that's like the last thing you'd worry about.
yeah,
A 12-week-old puppy
never
should not ever
ever run
off
No,
and have to go get the neighbors to look for him. That's just not a normal.
no, something's wrong in his wiring.
Yeah.
If he, at that young of an age, is willing to truly and completely
Run away.
detach,
Yeah.
if he doesn't care,
Yeah.
something's wrong.
Right.
You got
And it's not.
you got
don't-
trouble coming.
Don't
with
tell
that one.
yourself he's got a lot of desire.
Yeah.
That's not the.
No.
That's not
It's something's wrong.
right.
Yeah. I worry about those. kind of
on that
things.
subject, cooperation and desire. It's something that I talk about a lot with my breeds. They tend to have more cooperation than they have desire. Okay.
Sure.
Do you think cooperation, not only disappears, fades as a dog gets older because he's got more things he found, he went on some hunting trips? Or do you think the level of cooperation in a young dog, basically whatever level that dog has, there's some that are more cooperative than others.
Right.
My first short hair I got from you guys,
From Jim.
40 years ago.
I remember the litter.
Justin, I didn't know anything about dog training. I didn't have to train her.
Yeah. Tons of point.
40, 50, 60-yard dog, 100 yards in South Dakota, 40, 50, 60 yards in the wood. I mean, I didn't have to do anything. Was that breeding cooperation?
That was,
Or is it just breeding traits?
because I knew multiple dogs from that litter.
Yeah.
I wish I could still get that kind of short hair. They're out there, but not as much as they used to be. That was
Right.
30 years ago, right?
Right. Over.
Yeah, right? And so it is all in the genes. When you have the genetics on your side, when you have that right blend
Yeah.
of everything, and there's a lot of factors into that.
Yeah.
We could eat up the whole rest of it. We're going to do that. But when you have that right genetic package, this is so fun, and this is so easy.
Right.
Now, many people who are struggling in an area, sometimes they've made their problems unknowingly, of course, right? And that, you gotta step back. We've talked about that. You can't fix anything till you can diagnose it correctly, right?
Mhm.
Why is this going on? What's my alternate route?
Yeah.
Some people are buying their problems at 8 weeks old and they don't know it because what you're dealing with
It's
is
already
ingrained in that DNA.
It's got generations and generations of a certain
He
kind
was
of
born to
behavior.
be that way.
Right.
No matter what. And we all want to pat ourselves on the back for something our dog is great at.
Mm-hmm.
And we all want to shoulder the responsibility for our dog's shortcomings.
Yeah.
When in reality, more often the case that it's in that genetic package.
I got ancestral good dogs in that
Yeah.
background,
Okay, so
basically.
that-
And it just came out in that.
Yeah, that whole litter was really nice.
Yeah.
And they all fit that.
I'm going to
and they're
dig her up
consistent.
and clone her.
Yeah. I think it was like $100,000. You can clone your dog for $100,000.
We're going to have to sell
Yeah, the movie stars and the rappers do it, So anyways,
But you don't think cooperation, those levels, whether it's desire or cooperation, those stay pretty constant in a dog's life, you think?
they do. Now, if you have a dog that is driven to find game,
Mhm.
okay, you're going to ride that natural coop. He's still going to be super cooperative as a young dog.
Mm-hmm.
But as he begins to find birds, right, you're dumping some gas on that fire
Mm-hmm.
that's in there, right? And I want that. I want to stoke that. I want to
Right.
get that dog wanting to find game. That's what this is all about.
Right.
Right? You're going to hit a little moment there where it could be labeled uncooperative, but that's not what it is. He's just so focused, and he has this burn. He wants to find another bird.
Wants to get to the next.
Any dog that's going to be that kind of dog, which is the kind of dog I tend to like,
Yeah.
they're going to go through a window where they blow you off a little bit. Okay? He's not being necessarily uncooperative. Those are the dogs that get labeled as stubborn.
Yeah.
Incorrectly, right?
All right.
Well, he knows this and he knows that. Yes, but he's very young, and in this moment, his want to find game is rising above his level of obedience to control commands.
Right.
That's okay. That's temporary.
Yeah.
We can get that control. Now, here's where the real art of building a really special dog comes in. You want to gain that control and not lose the fire.
Yeah.
Which means you can't do it fast and you can't do it with harsh corrective measures, because now you're denting that dog's confidence.
Right. He could think, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah. So this is the art to building a truly great dog when he hits 3 that your buddies are drooling over.
Right.
Knowing what he is at 3 and knowing you got a bunch more years of that and he's still getting better, right?
Yeah.
But think of it like you got a blob of clay on a potter's wheel, okay? You get that wheel spinning. That's through exposure to all this stuff, and then you're just molding and shaping it.
It's not a fast process either.
Or you start to push on that blob too hard, right? There goes your artwork.
Yeah.
Start over.
Yeah.
But we can't start over with our dogs.
Yeah.
So slow and steady, a
Yeah.
little bit at a time. If you're always willing to take what the dog is willing to give you in that moment for now, you'll never have a problem.
Yeah.
It's when you push for more that you create problems in a dog. And people want ages, people want timelines.
They always
How
do.
long does this take? How long should I do that? Rick Smith, I think, put it best. It takes as long as it takes.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of it, right?
We had a question. It's kind of almost the opposite of this a little bit. This guy has a 2-year-old, he says hard charging setter. But for the first 2 years, it just didn't have much range. He was kind of like, oh, what I got here?
A setter. Kind of, yeah.
It was just like, it wasn't really hunting hard.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a member of the Upland Institute, but he stayed away from the field handling because he was afraid he was going to call it in too much, or he just said, boy, I don't think I got anything to teach handling. All of a sudden the light went on.
Yep.
And now he's got a dog that's like, is there
2, you said?
Yeah, it's 2.
Yeah.
But the light came on. Now he's a hunting fool.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have his field handling in his can he?
Well, now the dog's now ready.
So it just almost like that dog could have been a 6-month-old dog or 2-year-old dog.
Yeah.
Now he's ready for it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can't, and I'm big on pattern, right? So even those dogs that don't have their foot buried in the gas pedal yet, right?
Right.
I am going to do enough so that, and a lot of puppies will naturally do this if you walk them a lot. You want them going forward. Right? But if you have a dog that is kind of pottering, putzing, sticking really close, don't do anything more than try and keep them in front of you.
Okay.
And if it's in the genes, it'll grow like this guy's experience.
Right.
So that switch flipped in this dog.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's got a dog that he can work with more control-wise.
And he can go right to the field handling and check cord work and all that stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like he thought he missed. Maybe he thought he missed the time.
I think he's in the time now.
He's in the time right now.
Yeah, but I think he played his hand just right.
Yeah.
You can do that with any age of dog. What he doesn't want to do is, just like timing is everything. Okay, he didn't want to put this off another year if that rubber band is continuing to stretch to the point where the dog's becoming a bit out on his own.
Almost self-hunting, almost.
You should have a feel that, regardless of yardage, now with GPS, people, it was 217 yards. They give you exact numbers. They used to say he was gone, right?
He's gone. I don't know where he was.
Yeah. But regardless of yardage is irrelevant. It's about this feel you develop with your dog. Is he or isn't he connected to me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Am I still on his radar? Handler awareness.
Right.
Right? And a dog can be aware of you at 50 yards. He can be aware of you at 300 yards, depending on the terrain, the color, and the age of the dog. So when you begin to feel that he's kind of checking in less and less.
Right.
The flings are getting longer.
Because you're almost worrying instead of enjoying the walk.
Yeah.
You're starting to worry a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
You don't want to let that go on for a year and a half.
Right.
When you start to see that, feel that, he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
He's ready. Put that handle on him.
Right.
Make sure you can call him into you when you want.
Right.
It's okay to let him hunt like that as long as it's with and for you. Again,
Right.
no yardage stipulation to that.
Right.
He's connected to you. You can bend him when you need to bend him. You can call him to you when you need to call him to you.
Yep.
And now you're going.
And I think that's certainly one of the reasons why when we put the Upland Institute together, you purposely, and I think you might even said it in some of the talking heads, you don't want to put a date and a time. But you said you also got to get for a new handler, it's hard to get that feeling. Like, how does that new handler start trusting his gut? Maybe that's what it is, too. Maybe you should just trust your gut.
Yeah.
If it feels maybe wrong, maybe it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads to the other, list of 3. Believe it or not, we're still in the world of 3s
Right.
on this. When you get to those control commands and the handling commands, I see people way too much talking and not enough follow through and showing. So I gave a talk for a Rough Grouse Society event probably 7 years ago, I guess, maybe 8, something like that. And I don't know, I talked for about an hour, all bird dog training stuff. And I was chatting with a friend of mine who happened to be there. This is a guy who's got a lot of dog experience, really good dog man. And he brought that up. He goes, you said something during that talk that has always stuck with me. I go, really, what was it? And he said, you said that if a dog was granted the gift of the ability to speak just one time, what would he say to you to make you a better teacher of him, a better trainer of him? I said, he would say, show me what you want. Don't tell me what you want. Now, as humans, we're natural verbal communicators, right? Yeah. And people are trying to teach their dogs like that. They are doing nothing but throwing words out, as though these dogs come to this world, and we just got to hit that magic word, or maybe if we say this 50 times, it'll sink in.
Yeah.
You have to show these dogs what you want. Right. And not everything needs a word. I'm a fan of fewer the better.
Right.
And so 2 good examples of that with puppies. I condition all my puppies to wait at the door to go outside, or through any door. If that door swings open, that's not a free pass to blast through it, okay? No command. There's not one needed.
Right.
Because not every cue to a dog needs to be verbal. The cue to the dog here is a closed door being opened. And you condition him that he can't go through until you give him his release command.
Right.
Right? Well, stop. Wait. Stay. Whoa.
Sit.
Running through the whole right? But they're not doing anything.
Right.
Right? So none of these words can mean anything until we show them
what that word
means.
And
in this case, that falls into a no command thing.
Right.
The other big no command thing for me is dogs jumping up on me. Down, off, whatever. Yeah. You don't need any of that.
Right.
You just need to communicate to the dog, when you're in my personal space, your front feet don't come up on me.
Right.
Unless you're I know people that will invite their dogs up because they like to.
Yep.
And hey, it's your dog, your deal.
That's right.
I do it with my Grace dog. She's a sweetie pee, right? I can tell her to come on up, and she does so gently, and I get rid
and the other dogs on. Why does he like her more?
No, but
that can be done with just a knee off
body language.
Body language.
So someday, because if you see how this is done, it's very easy. So someday we gotta shoot a little something to show people. So, but when I'm trying to coach people, the biggest thing with jumping up on you is most people are giving cues to a dog that are actually invitations to jump on them, but they're not aware. In an effort to try and get them to stay down, they're actually throwing out an invitation to come up, a body language invitation.
Right.
They're saying down, off, not whatever.
Right.
But what they're showing the dog is, come on up. Right.
Yeah. So the dog don't know what these words mean.
No. But I don't use any words for that. It's just not allowed. right? Because at the end of this road, I don't want a dog that I have to tell how to do everything in life.
Right.
Part of this is teaching them what is and what isn't allowed.
Right.
And in that case, so some of the people, I've kind of got it figured out. I go, look, here's how you will learn how to communicate with your dog. Because if I see somebody that's got a year-old dog that's still jumping all over him, that tells me something about the human in the family. That tells me that they don't know how to communicate with their dog.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they've run through who knows how many command words thousands of times by then. Well, at some point, you have to realize this is not working. This dog's behavior is still persisting, right? And it's unknowingly getting some kind of a reward, right? Every action from a dog has an expectation. And if there's nothing in it for the reward or there's some sort of consequence that they don't like to it, then they're going to quit it.
Right.
So I tell people, no words, hands in your pockets, and you're only allowed to face the dog and step forward. You can't sidestep him. You can't step back. You can't take your hands out of your pockets, and you can't open your mouth. And now you're going to teach that dog how to stay down. You will.
Because there's no signals. You're not sending off.
You got to do it with your body language.
Yeah.
You got to teach him to respect your personal space.
Right.
Right? So I'm not bringing in the customer dogs this year till probably early April, maybe mid-April at the latest. So I'll have a pile of bad jumpers there. You should come out someday. Well, if you do it right and your technique and timing is good, it doesn't take much. It's real easy. And you'll see that dog. You be your crazy goofball self when you're out there running around playing and everything. But when you enter my personal space, there are rules.
Right.
And one of those rules is you don't initiate contact with flying front feet into my midsection.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's...
So will you do that with your customers' dogs, like unbeknownst to them?
I do it, right away. I'm going to start teaching that dog they can't do it. But here's the interesting thing about jumping up, and this goes back to the body language cues. I can teach a dog pretty quick not to come up on me. I balance it out. When they stay down, good. All they want is your touch.
Right.
They don't get that when they come up on you.
Right.
Not for me.
Right.
But then I try to teach the owners because jumping up is a person-to-person thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that goes back to not giving those body language cues that are actually invitations.
Right.
So staying with the world of that first year puppy thing, these are all things that your dog is absorbing and learning, right? Less with the verbalization, more with the show them.
Right.
Right? Puppy cords.
So you would tell me right now you could take a dog whenever they comes to at the right age to start training.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a deaf mute,
oh, sure.
you could teach a dog with not one English word.
100%.
100%.
100%. You could do it all on visual cues. Now, obviously, there's times that you're
A hand out or...
and body language cues.
Right.
You could teach...
You could do this. You wave your arms for... But I'm saying you could do it quietly.
For sure. For sure. Now, there are hunting scenarios that dogs, all they have is what they can hear.
You do need them to hear you.
You need verbal cues.
Or at least a whistle.
You whistle cues, verbal cues, But it's all, there's no magic method. It's all in the fundamental principles of how dogs learn. So when you understand the principles at play here and you have a decent puppy to work with between his ears, you'd be amazed, right? And a lot of people are kind of blaming the dog when in reality, they're just not doing the right things the right way.
Yeah.
And puppies, if nothing else, are very predictable. I know what that puppy's going to do. If he's a true puppy, right?
Right.
I know what he's going to do before he does.
Right.
Right? I've been around so many of them.
Next to the shoelaces.
They're very predictable.
Next to the couch cushion.
Yes. They're not all exactly the same, but they're all very predictable.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way to know that on puppy one. You got to learn some of this stuff as you go, but getting good information and understanding good principles of how dogs learn as they're growing up,
yeah,
you're going to shave a lot off that learning curve.
Right.
And that's what we all need to do anytime we're learning how to do anything that's new to us. You know, anytime I go in to learning something that's new to me.
Every time I put string on the weed whacker, I have to have somebody show me. So, like you're saying, you got to show them. You can't just...
Somebody tried to describe that over the phone to
Oh,
you?
if I blocked out the screen on my YouTube and the guy was telling me how, I have to be shown. I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that,
Yeah.
but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Something one person wrote in, when we filmed the wool post section, a lot of it is right outside your kennel building. I'm sure.
Yeah. What
I'm
we
sure
call
that-
yard work and
Yard
dog
work.
training.
That's
yeah.
your yard.
Yeah.
Right? That's
It's an
your
efficient way to get.
it's your mowed yard.
Yep.
Get a dog out, get him to the stake, get him
Yep.
back, and then we move the wool post out to the field
At any given time, I got 3-4 of those
locations
here and there.
Okay.
And some are moving.
So this person wanted to know, is front yard to backyard enough, or is it location? He was wondering,
Mm-hmm.
did we move the wool post out to the same field you're going to be teaching handling in for a reason, or was it just because that was a new spot to put the wool post?
Well, it's because that's the home training grounds, right?
Right.
So it's going somewhere there.
It's got to go somewhere.
So I know where he's probably getting is like, should I bring this with me?
That's, I think, what he
when
was
I go.
asking.
And I think initially he absolutely should. Now, front yard to backyard is a new location for a dog.
Right.
But you're going to hit the point of diminishing returns pretty quick on that move.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then you do need to get to a little more fieldsy, woodsy environment. So maybe when you're going for a run somewhere, hammer in a post real quick, give him 10 reps on that. You'll be surprised. The very first time you do that, he'll act like, I don't, whoa, what do you mean? We do this? We never do this. Right?
I don't do this in
Yeah.
the field.
Remember, dogs are
This is the
situation.
backyard where I see the playground
Right.
and the swing set.
They're situation and location thinkers and learners. Never
Yeah.
forget that. A big part of our job in training these dogs is managing all the transitions. Well, before you can manage a transition in training, you need to be aware that it's a transition to your dog. It
Yeah.
may not be a transition to you, but it is to your dog.
Right.
And in this case, the training stayed in the yard work environment or the training field.
Right.
And that's not where we are right now.
Right.
So it's your job to manage that transition and show him. And when you're showing him, always go back a few steps from where he is
Right.
and then build him back up and go on. Now, eventually, sticking with the example of whoa, and this is true of any command-based training, this principle applies. With whoa, somewhere in there, when you're starting to build in new locations, you're generalizing his learning to include wherever he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're also probably going to be floating with the, timeline or window of his training that we're looking to probably start bridging off the post,
Yeah.
right? And then doing our good collar conditioning, getting our reps done there, which we're going to initially do in the yard work first.
Right.
Don't ever skip that.
Right.
Never skip that. That will bite you. And now, basically, good e-collar conditioning, like all good e-collar conditioning, it replaces, it's an invisible woe post that's on him everywhere he goes for the rest of his life. However, you need to be aware of, and we talk about this in our instruction stuff, there's a big difference between, yard work distances,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this dog is very responsive in a yard work environment.
Right.
But be aware of the distance. Every time we've been enforcing this and practicing in this, we're more or less like within 20 yards of each
Right.
other, right?
Right.
If you jump right to flying by you loose in the field at 70 yards, I guarantee you that dog doesn't skip a lick. No way. That's too big a jump.
Yeah.
Now, as perfect as he may be in your yard work environment, some people are surprised by that. Oh, my gosh. I would count on that.
Yeah.
I do count on that. No. You got to fill that gap in between,
Yeah.
right? Because you're making a big transition there.
Right.
That's not a one-step process. So always be aware of things that are changes in the training environment to your dog.
Right.
Right. And the biggest one I get every year, I got 3 of them waiting for a callback right now, is people looking for steadiness, right?
Sure.
He knows whoa, but boy, he points just a little bit and I no he doesn't. he I'm sure he does demonstrate an understanding of what that word means.
Right.
In a bubble.
In a bubble.
In a bubble,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. We gotta start bringing that outside the bubble with no birds initially,
Right.
to where we got it perfecto.
Right.
That is so important. But why do people fast forward through that? Kind of boring
It
to
is.
them. Kind of boring.
Yeah.
No, let's go get some birds.
Well,
Right? Everybody loves to do bird work. Everybody loves to see their dog point.
Right.
All in good time. if you put your work in, then when you do get to the birds and your dog is truly ready, it goes well. And it's fun for you and it's productive for your dog, and you're eliminating any risks, potential negatives from the steadying process.
Right.
You've done this correctly. You really only get one shot at that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do it right.
Now it sounds scary.
It's not, though. It's not.
No, when you say you only get one
shot.
yeah,
Well, I tell people there's two places that you really sometimes cannot recover from mistakes with a dog, and that's significant mistakes around birds and gunfire.
right.
You can make about any other mistake in the world, and we can work our way through that.
Right.
But a certain type of dog, and it's got mental components, it's got drive issues, and it depends on what that bad experience was.
Yep.
If it was a really bad experience with birds or guns, some of those dogs, you got to pet. They're never going to be right.
Right.
I'm not saying that, you know what I mean? You're never going to be right.
Yeah.
And so those are the two big ones where you want to make sure that before you proceed forward.
Right. That's why you want them so well-rounded.
Yeah.
Big on walks, big on everything else. Because then the birds will just be another layer.
Well, we're
later
talking,
on.
we're talking later stages in that
Yeah.
example. But
Yeah. Kind of speaking to that, fixing something is a problem. A fella said that his dog aggressively grabbed a broken wing pheasant and poked a hole in the roof of his mouth, scared the dog off. Now, anecdotally, I had a dog that got clamped onto by a bird, his lower lip.
bit him with his beak.
And hung on. And this was not a game bird.
Gotcha.
Anyway, she spun around, and this bird let go. And her next bird that was shot, she didn't want to go after that bird. When a dog does encounter something, whether it's jammed himself with a stick or poked himself in the mouth, if you know what the dog did, is there a method for fixing that, or do you think those things will just kind of disappear if everything else
Is there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables there in that one, believe it or not.
I what I did with this dog was I'm not saying this is the way to fix it for this fella. In our NAVDA testing system, we do what's called a drag. It's a dead bird. There's certainly no broken wings sticking out of it. And that exercise there's not even a nose component to it. It's just an obedience thing. And I started doing some drags, meaning I put a leash on the bird. I dragged it behind me for 50, 60 yards, unhooked it, walked away, and let her go. So she came upon that bird not after a shot and not after finding it out, but she just got to it, nosed it a little bit, picked it up cautiously, and kind of trotted back with it. And it seemed like, and I did this on a hunting trip, and it seemed like she was just like, oh, they're not all sharp.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
I would expect that as the norm.
There goes to like the well-balanced dog.
Well-balanced dog
Okay.
between
Maybe
his ears should be able to, and driven to retrieve,
Right.
which retrieving is genetic. It can be taught,
Right.
but it's both, right?
Yeah.
You can have either or a combination of both, usually,
Right.
sometimes, depending on the owner's expectations.
Right.
But I would say a balanced mind dog, well, the next one didn't do that.
Right.
And they would realize that was an isolated incident.
It's just something.
And they should recover from that.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if something like that happens, there are some things that I would recommend. Number one, avoid the place that happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, location is huge, right? So when that dog's
going to remember that location as much
this
as...
is where that thing, stung me. It stung him, basically.
Yeah, basically. It was a bee nest in the ground.
It hurt me. I put my mouth on that and it hurt, right?
Right.
He's going to remember that place where that happened, and he's going to be in half a funk regardless of any bird because of where he is.
Never even thought of the place.
So fresh ground.
Okay.
Also, I'd recommend a period of time before you even make any attempt. Sometimes human nature.
Let's find out
I'm
how
gonna
bad.
fix this tomorrow.
Let's find out how bad
Yeah.
it is. Like the kid that falls down and skins his knee.
Yeah.
Probably going to be playing 15 minutes later.
I'd leave him alone for a while. Go work him on some birds and don't even shoot any. Right.
There you go. That should be fun.
Just build him back up. Right.
Yeah. And if he's a normal dog,
and then maybe your next ones are not pheasants.
Right.
That would be another way you're building that confidence back up,
Right.
and you're giving that dog time,
right,
to come to the realization that not every bird is going to sting me when I put my mouth on it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, accept what they're willing to give you now in this
Right.
moment. The longer you build them up, if you're trying to overcome a negative experience,
Right.
your odds are getting higher.
Yeah.
You cannot possibly take too long, but you sure the heck go too fast.
So.
Yep, and you build them back up. Now, sometimes I hear that. He got flat by a wing, he got spurred, broken this, broken that. It's very early in the dog's hunting experiences.
Yep.
Sometimes I contend, you know what? He probably wasn't born to be much of a retriever anyways.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think that was happenstance, right?
A genetically
Yep.
poor retriever would probably be a lot more put off by that little poke in the mouth.
Yeah,
Because we've seen our dogs go into grouse thickets to get they're getting
oh yeah.
briars in their cheeks and
Yeah.
sticks in their mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they weren't born to be a great retriever anyways,
Mhm.
that broken wing bone was happening. It wasn't going to happen either way for you. It
Right.
wasn't in the cards.
right.
But sometimes, you got people want to assign whys.
Well,
and
we like to-
everything, and it could
Like
be.
to put human characteristics to it, Now,
Now, if the dog had 50 pheasants killed over him and he shown the tendency to want to retrieve those to you,
Right.
and he got poked with one wing bone,
Right.
yeah, take that in stride.
Right.
I shouldn't turn him off.
Exactly.
Right. If it's
You know more than
early on in the experience, it's
Right.
another story.
Yeah. Just like you step, this is not a perfect example of it, but when I've had puppies here, you inevitably, with puppies running around, you're going to be stepping on a foot or two, and you're going to hear that ki-ying. That puppy doesn't stay away from me for the rest of his life.
No.
He kind of accepts it as like, oh, shoot, that hurt.
Yeah.
But everything else is okay.
And balance the next 10 times he comes to you, hopefully shortly after that
I didn't
one
keep stepping
bad
on the
one.
same puppy.
Yes, it doesn't happen.
Right.
So you balance it.
Yeah.
You realize it. Same
Yeah.
thing when we do the jumping up thing. I
Mhm.
balance it, right?
Right.
This, no good for you. This, good for you.
Yeah.
It's just that simple,
Yeah.
right? They're absorbing all that stuff.
Well, we were talking about moving the wool post and locations.
Yeah.
What about the field handling? Now, obviously, we didn't do it in a lot of areas, but when a person is working their field handling, first check cord back and forth, and then incorporating that with the lay over the collar, how many I don't want to put a number on it, but what should be their mindset about going somewhere else and doing that, going somewhere else? Because is it just like the same thing? If you just learn in your backyard, you only learned it in your backyard.
Right. And then once you got them, though, once you can turn them,
Once it feels good in the
reliably,
backyard.
Yep, they're bending with you and everything. You're going to start to bring that to all these other environments,
Mm-hmm.
but you're going to pick your battles. You're going to do it when you know that you can back it up.
Yeah.
And then you're going to just here and there. I try and teach people these, and I use a whistle cue sometimes to turn. I always do for customer dogs because it transfers very good to
the
from me
owner.
to anyone, right? Guys, with your own dogs, you can come up with your verbal cues. Those are unique to you. You and your dog are a team. That's the only reason, honestly, I use that whistle cue, other than if I got a dog way out there
Right.
and reel him in, a whistle
Right.
will reach out. But for other handling purposes, doesn't matter. But I very much emphasize to people, now that your dog knows this whistle, you're not a full-time whistle player, okay? Some people are out there blowing on that thing like it's a trombone. That's terrible dog. It's overhandling, right?
Right.
The idea here is not to control their every step and we have robo-dog. No,
Right.
the idea here is handling for the purposes of patterning and a little bit of range adjustment when needed. Range is a big one for a lot of people. A lot of people are not comfortable
Right.
with, wider ranging dogs.
Right.
We won't go down this track, but a lot of times you just bought the wrong dog.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
But genetically, it might be a 300-yard dog.
Yeah,
Right.
If you're not going to make him a 40-yard,
No.
half throttle, quartering dog, right?
Right.
Regardless of how
Right.
much you train. But the idea is handling for the purposes of patterning.
Mm-hmm.
Or you want him in that, you pick the direction of the hunt.
Yep.
You want that dog to then use his experiences and his mind, his conditions at hand that day, to shake that down for anywhere he thinks he might find game.
Yeah.
Not to turn him into some go left, go right,
Right.
go
right.
left, go right. He should be using his brain. what looks and feels like it could hold game. Go
Right.
to it, hunt it, use your nose,
Right.
but in a forward fashion.
Right.
We pick the direction of the hunt. That dog, we want him to stay forward and do his thing. That's why we have him. Don't handle a dog excessively to the point that you're actually causing them to find less birds.
Right.
I see it all the time, and sometimes the roots of that lie in someone handling a dog in a fashion to try and prevent what they think is a mistake. Well, if I let him go out there, maybe he doesn't hold point long enough, and maybe
That's a big
oh yeah,
That's a big
no,
one.
No, he's got to learn how to find game, and he can't learn how to find game when anytime he shows any initiative.
Left.
Yeah, no, come back.
Come back.
Go here.
Yeah.
Go here. As long as he's forward, let him hunt.
Right.
Let him hunt. All that other stuff. When did this happen? It is that people seem to feel like they should have staunch, steady puppies that they're killing birds over on season 1 at a tender young age. That is the world we're living in now. And
Well,
it's not fair.
It's
to the
not
dog.
fair to the dog.
No.
I could blame a lot of that on the testing systems because there's people that really think it's cool to get the youngest dog possible.
Oh, that's
ready
just,
for
braggadocio.
yeah.
Right. When
It's
the
like-
reality is
Like I was hunting over him at 6 months.
well,
Good for you, but
me too. Right? But I had no expectations of
Exactly.
adult levels of
Right.
training or anything.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, you should be hunting your dog at 6 months as long as you got your gun work done,
yeah,
but not with the expectations that are being placed on some of
Right.
these puppies now. That is a recent phenomena.
yeah,
And it's being fed by social media stuff. It's being fed from every angle
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
And it's detrimental.
It
to
is.
these
Well,
dogs.
the other thing I've seen, and I've seen people post it when you said social media. We'll stay off that, otherwise it's another podcast. But the fact when I said people want to get it tested earlier and younger, if they do some well on a test, I've seen it in there. He did it at 6 many months of age.
Yeah.
Like, so what are you doing it for? Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for the dog?
Well, correct.
They're doing it for themselves.
Pat themselves on the back.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Yeah, look at me. And now the other thing about that, in that particular example, okay, let's go hunting.
Yeah.
Wait, that dog doesn't have a clue what he's doing. That's not what he's been.
He's learned to
groomed
find.
to do.
find chuckers in a
He's
48.
learned to pass the test. He's learned to do good on the test.
That's
right?
right, that's
Let's
right.
go bird hunting.
Yeah.
That dog doesn't have the first clue where to look for a bird.
Right. Because
He hasn't experienced it yet.
it's not his fault.
Not his fault.
No.
And maybe his owner doesn't even hunt, right? It's all about the test. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. Train for what you're into and what you do.
Right.
Otherwise, you're kind of, why waste your time trying to develop a skill set that's never going to be used?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense, right?
Yep.
So but that's where the consumer, the bird dog puppy buyer, let's go back to my number one piece of advice: buy puppies from people who do what you want to do.
Do your research.
Do not be impressed with titles and
Right.
pedigrees and this and that. Seek out somebody
Right.
who's really in to the kind of hunting you want to do.
Right.
Now you're getting on the right track
Right.
with the correct owner-puppy match.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
A lot of people, there's nothing wrong with the dog they have. We just got a bit of a mismatch going here from what they had in their head that they wanted.
Yeah.
That's why I love it before somebody gets their first dog. If they've got friends that got bird dogs, their uncle, father,
Right.
grandpa, something that they've at least got
Spend
a
some time with
baseline
that.
with some different dogs,
Right.
different types of hunting. They kind of got a feel for what is normal to them, what
Right.
they like. They
Right.
found the kind of hunting they want to do. Sometimes, and I am really sympathetic with this situation, it's really common. People are surfing the internet for a puppy.
Oh yeah.
And what they know is what's on that website, and
They see
and
titles. They see
breeders,
this. They see that.
and this bomb-proof.
They've never met the parents. They've never hunted
guarantees
with the
that-
breed even.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
And sometimes parents never even done the kind of hunting they're going to do for this.
They're kind of like
Yeah.
looking at a car lot going, yeah, but they keep going back to the Ferrari.
Yeah,
Yet they've never drove on a race course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It'd be the same mistake. This was an odd one, and I wrote it down because I thought it was, and he used a different word. I changed the word to protect the innocent. Why am I such a wussy? I'm having a hard time committing to doing the trained retrieve.
I get this.
Do you?
I do, and I'll tell you why. He has a misconception about that being a process that involves a lot of high-level discomfort for the dog, right? That is because there are and always have been plenty of people who take that approach to this. You better get this in your mouth, or else you're going to come to see Jesus moment here.
You're getting
right?
lit up. You're getting whatever,
right? That there's some harsh
Right.
type training techniques in there, and I say that those aren't training techniques. To me, that's abuse. You don't do
torture.
That. You don't do that to an animal,
Right.
or you just don't. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
There is a way to do it. You're conditioning. That's why I hate the term force break.
Right.
Both of those really have negative connotations. Right. It's a trained retrieve. It's a conditioned retrieve.
Right. But the reason that old word force was in there is because what you said. A lot of times back in day two, the whole process was forced down that dog's throat.
Well, and also it's because you're taking something that is genetic, retrieving, but is maybe absent or weak in this particular individual.
Right.
And it's now becoming a command, and commands are not optional. When I tell you to do this, you must do this. So maybe this will put this guy's mind more at ease. You know who else goes through the trained retrieve? TV and movie docs. Go pick up my paper and bring it to me for this scene.
Yeah, the little Benji dog that's a mixed breed.
They all go through this process. They are conditioned to retrieve any object on command.
Right.
Okay? Now, nobody was out there being Mr. Meanie, those dogs, out in the back barn, right? So nobody could hear them squealing, right?
Yeah, these
it
dogs
doesn't
are on
have to
camera.
be that way.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, handicap assistance dogs. People that have mobility limitations, right? They need dogs that can pick up this. Those dogs go through this.
They got to pick up their medicine bottle, their wallet, their phone.
So it's an old bird dog thing that doesn't want to go away, that somehow this requires harsh treatment to communicate to a dog that fetch means pick this up. And it's not that way. It doesn't need to be that way. You can do it without that.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's going to take a while.
Right.
This is not a quick, and that's where a lot of people lack the follow through. You can be 0.8 of the way through this process, and you don't have an 80% better retriever. It's an all or you are not going to reap the rewards of birds brought in the field until you're done.
Okay.
Now, you can be 80% through, and life gets in the way, and you're busy.
I remember
you walk away. And you can pick up where you left off whenever you feel like. It's there. It will never go away.
When you put that in the train retrieve program, I can tell you people have told me that they didn't realize that you could come back to that. You could start trained retrieve, come back to it in the spring, hunt that fall, just don't have an expectation, and then pick them up on the table, and they'll pretty much be
right where you left them.
Right where you left them.
So dogs, regardless of any training, dogs training does not erode or regress from no more work. It erodes and regresses from failed attempts to use it and lack of reinforcement, sloppy handling.
Right.
So in the case of the trained retrieve, if you just leave it where it is, protect your training, don't throw those command words you're building out. You don't even leave your mouth. Let him do what he's going to do when there's a bird on the ground.
That's it.
Next spring, or you get buried in snow, no more hunting.
Good time to...
That dog will be right where you left him.
Yeah.
Now, just don't erode your training between your
don't try to
work
do something. Don't have an expectation in hunting season if you didn't see it on the table.
That's true of
everything.
Every command-based dog training thing. As long as you're not eroding it, you can step away from it and resume it at will.
Right. Now, this is kind of a other end of the tangent. This person wants to know, is there any practical hunting benefit to roding dogs if you don't plan on, of course, I think he was thinking about just field trial dogs. Because if you don't plan on doing a 3-hour field trial, which there's only one in the world.
Well,
I mean, is there a hunting benefit to roding?
Sure.
Okay.
Dog in good shape does better work. And period. I don't care if you're in a field trial. I bet he goes for a 3-hour bird hunt.
Right.
At some point in his dog's hunting life. Or
so
whatever.
I guess then maybe the other, because there was a couple people that wrote in, if you had the time, would a 3-hour walk be better than a 20-minute roding where you could cover the same amount of conditioning?
Well, it's a time and place practicality matter and a time of year. Okay. So typically roding is off season.
Right.
Usually. Because during season, you should be running that dog, working him, hunting, whatever.
Right.
So I think a lot of people, like, in shape, out of shape is in their mind determined by that number on a scale, like how much the dog weighs,
Yeah.
right? That's a factor, but it goes way beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about heart and lungs. You're conditioning that, right?
Right. He could be a thin dog and be out of shape.
I know skinny people couldn't run from here to your mailbox, right?
Yeah.
They'd be huffing and puffing. So you got to build that up. Now, how does that affect? And I told a lot of people, I have roaded dogs in the past. I've gotten away from it a little bit recently. I'm probably going to get back to it just for a lot of reasons. Why is it not critical for me? I got like 6 dogs, man.
Right.
You know, I'll hunt them into shape. I got more than enough dogs.
Right. You're going to get an hour. The next one's going to get an hour.
I got friends, and I'm always getting together with buddies, and they got 3 dogs in their truck. Sometimes we got too many dogs, right?
If you got one dog.
But if you got one dog, this is very important. Very important. So,
like literally, what we're really talking about is cardiovascular conditioning.
And you're never doing this on pavement, okay?
Yep.
So you should be also on these dirt roads or gravel roads conditioning their pads, right? A lot of guys that go on these Western trips have pad troubles on day 2.
Yeah, they do.
And putting boots on a dog who's already knocked his pads off is okay. I guess they're not going to get worse, right? But he's shot. But he needs time off, right?
That's sore foot.
Yeah. And sometimes even not pad abrasion, which is one thing, but a lot of times, and this you really can't prepare them for in certain pad bruising I've seen. You look at the pad, it's fine. But he's
actually bruised.
He's got bruised pads, on certain kinds of ground. Yeah. So the better shape you have them in for the 1 or 2 dog owner, the better. Now, here's the other thing that I'm not sure everybody is aware of. When a dog is physically fatigued but still driven to work, and it's the only dog you got, you're taking him out for another hunt.
You sure are. Yep.
They begin to make mental mistakes. It's no different than a human that's physically exhausted. They're not their sharpest mentally, and these dogs begin to make mistakes. You'll see handling response start to waver, lag a little bit. He's not listening like he should. Right. You see him do stupid stuff out there. He'll mishandle some birds, not get them pointed that dog normally would have stuck them birds.
Right.
But he's so tired
that
he's not. And we all want our dogs at their best, don't we?
Yeah.
And that requires some effort to keep them in shape, but also you got to know when they need rest too. And my entire career, I've seen these people get their first dog, and they're at that win. I mean, they're all in on this, right? Yeah. They're hunting all over the place, hunting all the time. Life hasn't bogged them down too bad yet, so they got time.
Yeah.
They learn real quick. One dog ain't enough.
Right.
Real quick, they learn that.
Yeah.
Or you better find a couple buddies that each have a dog. Yeah. And then it takes them a year to learn, well, we shouldn't run them all together. Now we got retired.
My first trip with Queenie that we were talking about earlier, me and Jeff Peterman went to South Dakota, and we were so excited to be there. We put both of those short hairs on the ground every time.
Yep, of course.
Because we wanted to we could have, when we came home, those dogs looked like hell. Yeah. You're right. We somehow didn't find as many birds.
On the back end of the trip.
Day 4 or 5. Of course not. And we were in a great area. The dogs were cached.
I laid there for a week when you got home.
Oh, I bet you they probably didn't even care to eat. They were just happy to not be running.
Yeah.
But then it's their desire that keeps them going, right? But it's up to us to physically build up their body.
They'll pay the price on the back end. So what having a well-conditioned dog does is it just gives you more productive time in the field. So I say a killer 2-hour swing is better than 4 hours where the last 2 were
unproductive,
not good for anybody, not fun, right?
And possibly breaking the dog down that you're not.
That's when they get hurt.
That's when
it's when they get hurt. Mm-hmm. So don't do that to your dogs. So roading, nothing wrong with it. Use the correct setup. Don't run your dog over. Use a correct roading setup.
That's something you can rely on YouTube for. We're not going to go.
You can use 4-wheelers. You can use
bicycle.
Bicycle. About the worst thing that can happen is you fall down.
That hurts.
Get a good harness. Make sure your harness fits. The other thing I do want to mention is there's people that way more experienced than I am in this, but me personally, I don't want my dog pulling hard the entire time. That's not about like bodybuilding here. Okay, little light pull here and there, I'm okay with.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of am trying to more or less match the dog's speed.
Right.
It's about building endurance and stamina, right? Heart
Right.
and lungs. I'm not trying to see how big a hindquarters and chest I can get on him by
Right.
making him really pull hard. So that's just me. I'm sure other people do it different, but
Well, and one dog, one vehicle. Yeah, I can't see where you'd want him to be pulling you. You'd want to match the speed just to keep him almost a treadmill like.
keep him running.
Almost like a treadmill. Just,
Yeah.
As long as you want to stay on the treadmill, you can stay on until you're tired.
And it's just like any other exercise regimen, right?
Yeah.
Start slow, short, and gradually build them
Yeah.
up. Be aware of the temperatures.
Yeah.
But just because you're not hardcore field trialer doesn't mean roading is not for you.
Right.
I think people have far more access to some country dirt road where they can maybe get a little roading in
Mm-hmm.
than they do acreage
That's true.
to run a loose run a dog.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
unless you live right in the city, you can probably find a road. that
And
you
for
can-
multiple dog owners, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
There are setups you can do them all at once,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
And they like-
or at least two at a time.
Seems like they like it too.
They do get into it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you see
But-
people schedorning with their dogs.
They do,
and
yeah.
like
I had a friend who did that, and that points out our dogs like doing anything with us.
Yeah.
They really do. It's just another activity with their buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't shy away from it just because you're not
Okay.
a trialer.
Anything else on your thing? Because I had a question for you when you got here, and you said, "Let's save this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let's save this." And it might get into a lengthy discussion.
It may. Well, hey, one real quick.
Yeah.
I thought, if this guy, this goes back to Puppy's first year, kind of a little bit, but didn't make the 3. This guy asked a question like, any tips for dogs that don't eat when I travel? So, I've been traveling around this country with bird dogs my whole life, right? My personal dogs, I've not had one. Not one. Now, you would think. How many dogs do you know that won't eat when they go on the road? It's not uncommon. I hear it a lot.
It's not uncommon. It's never been my dogs either, though.
I know why. I can tell you why. Okay? So when I hear this, I take another road, he doesn't eat. There's usually 2 common threads. Okay? Number 1, the dog's free-fed at home. He's a dog that has become a grazer.
Mm-hmm.
They start when they're puppies and they, food's gone. We'll put some more in there. And the dog becomes conditioned to eat small amounts here, small amounts there to get his nutrition. Okay. And number 2, it's a dog that doesn't travel frequently as a part of his life. Okay. He's not taking
Right.
here, taking there.
This
going
kind of goes
here.
all the way back to
going-
the beginning.
Oh, it does. Yep. We're going camping for the weekend. Don't send your pup to the boarding kennel. Take him camping with you. Right?
Yeah.
Going to all these new places and all that. Okay. But you absolutely, at some point, you need to condition your dog to eat meals. So that food is down for 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if he doesn't eat one piece or eats the whole thing or somewhere in between. It's coming up.
Yep.
Okay. He's offered another meal. Little pups, we're at 3 times a day still, and then we go to 2. And
Right.
then adult dogs, I feel, should be once. But
Yep.
regardless of your feeding routine, that food is down for 15 minutes, and then it's picked up.
Right.
Your dog now has been conditioned to eat a meal when it's presented to him.
Yeah.
Huge when you're hunting, because you want to be in absolute control of both when your dog eats and how much he eats.
Right.
The only person that people get married to a measuring cup, and that ain't the right way to feed a dog.
Yeah.
When you're really in tune with what's going on with your dog, your measuring cup amount can be your baseline, but there's an ebb and flow to that. He needs a little more today. That's a big day on him, right?
Right.
And we
Or we're
want
traveling for 2 days.
light.
Light.
Yep.
Exactly.
And so you want to control the timing and the amounts, and you can only do that. You can't do that with a grazer and a self-feeder.
Yeah.
And if you put those two together, he's a self-feeder at home and he doesn't travel much. I've had people tell me their dogs have turned their nose up at food for days.
Oh, they'll go get McDonald's. They'll get gravy from the store, and
yeah,
I
all
mean,
kinds
anything.
of stuff.
They're like begging them to eat.
Yeah, the low-salt chicken broth,
Right.
warm water and can. You can try dialing it up, trying to
But they're still
do
fussy.
that. They can. Some are. Some that'll get them to do it.
Right.
So that's one thing we can try. Another thing for down the road.
Yeah.
Right? Condition that dog to eat meals.
Yeah.
And, sometimes a dog not eating is the first sign something's wrong. Now, if he's a grazer, well, okay,
no big
we
deal.
don't know. But if you got a dog that you put a cup and a half of food in front of him every day and he promptly eats it, and you
Right.
put it down in front of him one day
Something's
and he goes,
wrong.
no, that it could be no big deal. It could be the first sign of something's really wrong.
Right.
So,
Well, your lovely wife helped me through a situation where the dog ate a sock,
yeah.
and she said he could probably pass it. He's a big dog. But the minute you see him refuse a meal, you call me. I mean, but we already knew the data.
You knew what was in there.
We knew the data ahead of time.
Right.
But when you said that, it went right back to when I was told, like, if you don't see him eat, like, yeah, my dog, when I put a full food down, it's gone.
Right.
In short order.
Right.
And if you've seen this for 3 years with the dog, that's a perfect, don't think he's just being fussy today. There's something.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Now, it could be, I've seen it happen with my females in heat, my male not wanting to eat.
Sure.
That's a different story.
Yep.
But then you know that because
You
you
know
have
that.
dogs and you live in a kennel.
his mind's somewhere else.
Right. He's not hungry.
Right.
He's horny. He's not
Right.
hungry.
Right.
But, yeah, that's a great point, though. And when you train it like that, and he's never missed a meal, like, you've got some more data.
Yep.
For even going to the vet
Mm-hmm.
to say, like, when I put food down, this dog eats. He didn't eat.
Yeah.
That could tell the vet something.
She asks that question all the time to people, and the free feeders are like, well, I don't really know. You know, it's hard to say, right? No.
Does he normally go, hey?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it lasted a little longer before.
Our dogs and our kids.
So yeah, and if you look at the evolution of all canines, right? They really weren't designed to have food continuously coming into them multiple times a day.
No.
Their whole life,
It was when they could.
Right. It's nothing for a coyote to, miss a few meals and eat every now and then, right?
Mhm.
Their body has evolved to be
Right.
fine with that,
Right.
right? I see grown dogs still being fed 3 times a day at home because they love them. It isn't the American way. We show love with food, right? Here's some cookies, Ron. Here's a pie, right?
Yeah.
We like you.
Here's dessert, too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that gets projected onto our dogs, too. Food is love, right?
Goes back to consistency with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is the dogs that don't eat when traveling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you have? Let's go to that.
Well, when you came in, I said, before we get going, I want to ask you a question.
Oh yeah.
I was quail hunting, and I know you've done decades of quail hunting.
It was crazy. A landowner pointed this out to me because we did the math on how old his daughter is now and how old she was when I met him.
Mm-hmm.
This was my 25th anniversary.
No, you've shot a few quail.
I've missed a lot of quail. I scratched one down here and there. I actually choose not to shoot a lot anymore because I love those little boogers, but that's a whole nother thing. But
Right.
yes, I have been responsible for plenty of quail hitting
Right.
the deck in my life.
And now I've shot a lot of pheasants.
Yeah.
A fair amount of other birds around the country. Gruff grouse and woodcock here. And I always say, they go down and a BB will put them on the ground and they'll lay there and flap for your dog to hear them.
I'm hurt.
I'm hurt, right?
Yeah.
So this was, I'm going to say, for all intents and purposes, this is my first experience with a group of people after quail day after day, getting into good numbers of birds.
Yeah.
And dogs not being able to find a quail. Now, I know this sounds really goofy. I shot a lot of preserved quail. Don't usually lose preserved quail.
Nope.
I did not realize, and we were blaming it on the wind. So I asked you, I said, do you lose whatever a fair amount is of quail, or was it just this day, this wind? What is it? I mean, that's a common bird to lose. I just didn't think it was.
There's reasons for that. If you look at where the accessible quail belt is
Right.
today, okay? Oftentimes not killer scenting conditions. You know what I mean?
Dry.
It can be pretty dry country,
Mhm.
okay? And then you've got the fact that this is a small bird that's just flown, right? Boom, down he comes. There's very little scent there
Mhm.
where he fell. There's a big difference between falling breast down and breast up even.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, breast down can be really hard to find.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's just for some reason there's not as much stink coming on.
It's like he lays down over his own.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because the wings are cupped different instead of folded flat, but I've noticed a little difference there. So difficult sending conditions. Small bird, recently air washed.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't live there, your dogs are coming to the game with very little practice in that environment. Depending on the age of the dog, maybe general overall lack of practice in hunting dead. Now, when a covey of 12, 14 quail jump up in front of a dog, and bam, you pick out your bird and you knock him. Your dog doesn't see that one, your novice quail
It would
dog.
be-
He's
it would-
watching the rest of them.
It would be pure luck if he saw it, basically.
You would have to have some circumstance there.
Stars lined up.
Yes, skylit just right, tumbling over there,
Right.
the other one. But most of the time, the other birds are going to keep the dogs
Focus.
focused.
Because that's,
Right.
yeah.
Whether he's steady or not. Now
Because
veteran.
they're still flying, and
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, no, I like steady dogs 100% on quail. I want my dogs standing.
Yep.
Right? I feel that might give them a litlittle edge on that once they get a couple seasons under their belt.
Right.
It's all hard for the first timers.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that, as you know, just like most hunters, right? When I was young and learning about hunting wild quail, man, when I had a chance and I had a point, I'm shooting, right? One thing I'm very aware of now is where's this bird going to fall? There's certain kinds of cover. You shoot a bird that's over that kind of cover, man, it's a real long shot. In fact,
that's what we're experiencing.
it may, in fact, in all likelihood,
not be recovered.
not be recovered, even with a good dog.
Right.
I've started to let those fly over the last 10 years because I know, why kill him? I'm not going to get to eat him.
Right.
The dog's not going to get any practice finding him.
Right.
And some dogs, as we know, as a general thing, are just better at it than others.
Oh, for sure.
Many pointing dogs, they better get a clue real quick, scent-wise, right?
Yeah.
And they just want to go hunt and find another bird.
Yep.
Now, you have one. I have one. Lots of people have a good spaniel. That's what they live for. A chance. Ooh, we got one down.
Yeah.
They're in heaven.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll bring a spaniel along if I know there's some crappy cover in this spot that's going to make recovery very difficult. Tall grasses that are very thick.
Mm-hmm.
Even stubble fields. Wild quail are tough, man. I've seen them get smacked
Yeah.
and hit the ground, and I don't care. That is not the dog. That bird is not there anymore.
Right.
He hit, he rolled, he ran.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I see enough birds in my life get shot where we're either guiding or run dogs with buddies, and hey, you carry the gun. I'm just right. You can tell when you're not shooting whether that bird is dead in the air or coming down alive. So the wing shot bird rolls because his next wing beat, only one of them's working.
Yeah.
And it rolls him.
Yep.
Right? A dead in the air bird, he goes limp.
Right.
That bird is going to be laying where he fell if
Right.
he's truly coming down limp in the air. But guy, when you got a gun to your cheek and everything,
There's
the
a lot
shooters
more
don't
wing
see
shot
that.
birds than there is killed birds. At least
sure.
on this trip I was on.
Yeah, and a lot of that's they're fast. It's hard. they're quick, and a lot
I mean,
of
their wings are going so fast. How could they not get a pellet in the wing?
But here's what I also noticed: that until guys get a depth of experience hunting quail, and this is true of rough grouse too, I will say, probably true of most wild birds. It feels like you need to shoot fast because things are happening fast, and that
Does.
roar, that I live for that sound of a
Mhm.
covey rise. Oh, that's just
I'm now
awesome,
officially
right?
addicted
You
to it,
get
by
it
the
in.
way.
It's the most so addicting, right?
Yeah.
That roar of them birds lifting.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, does that just do it for me, right? Well, that causes you sometimes to shoot too fast,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times, bam, bam, and then there's my shot.
Yeah.
That happens all the time in the grouse woods too.
Yeah.
So sometimes by shooting too fast, your pattern really hasn't had a chance, depending on how far they were when they lifted, right?
Right.
So it's about being able to maintain our focus in the moment, right? Which is exciting, and pick your shots as good as you can, because if they're dead where they fall, we're always going to recover a way higher percentage of those than an active cripple, regardless of species.
Yeah.
I've had wing shot quail run down badger holes. Where I've had that dog work him. He's not. Yep, he fell there. He's not there. Okay, he's got clues here. We're working.
Yeah.
That dog stick his head right down that bird went down that hole on me.
Yeah. So yeah, my lack of experience with wild quail, I got used to seeing the pheasant that actually hit the hayfield and bounced, and I'm telling people it's not dead because I've seen it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, roll.
But they're new at it, and they're like, "Oh, I knocked him down hard.
He folded. He folded.
I saw him bounce on the turf. Yeah, I've seen him bounce.
Yep. Roll.
And then I've seen him get right back up on their feet.
Up and run off.
I just did not know that a quail could do that.
No, they're tough.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of talk this into like, what can we do to get better at this?
Yes.
But the only savior was that little cocker.
Yeah.
And my only thing was, is it in her? Is she a tornado looking for something? Yeah, that's probably I got genetically lucky there. But her nose is only that far off the ground.
Certainly an asset.
It can't be bad, right?
Oh, no.
There was times when we were near the truck and they said, "Ron, go get Vivi."
Yep.
And these are guys that live there.
Yep.
And like, in fact, the dad, he goes, "I'm going to quit doing this. I don't remember a day we've lost this many birds."
Yeah.
But luckily our odds improved by sticking to it and getting that little cocker in there. Now granted it was windy.
Yeah.
But that's not helping.
That's not helping
That's
at all.
not helping at all.
Bad setting conditions, wind is certainly a component to that. And then birds, the cover they fall in is huge. And like I said, sometimes you just got to know when to let that one fly.
Right.
Especially if you're following up singles, right?
Right.
That ain't the only one. Let's see if we can find one that maybe peels out over this stubble field or over short grass or something.
Yep.
Don't shoot one over a plum thicket the size of your house.
Right.
Don't do it. You're not going to get him, most likely.
What's that cover? It kind of looks like, it's not cattails, but it looks like cattails.
Don't get me going on that.
You know what I'm
crap.
talking about?
Yeah, that's Phragmites.
That's it, Phragmites. So they had a couple patches of Phragmites.
Yeah.
And the owner, the birds busted out over it.
Yep.
He didn't shoot.
No, you'll never get them.
You can't even walk in that stuff.
That's not always been there. And
that's
it's an invasive. It's spreading like wildfire in the bottoms of draws there. That's where it is.
Yep.
We have Phragmites here in Michigan, but it's a different species, also an invasive.
Mm-hmm.
What's scary about the one that I'm seeing there now, and I mean, I'm telling you, I see it now in places it wasn't there 4 years ago.
Wow.
And it's got the whole bottom of some of those draws filled. It's just the stuff out there has a wider bandwidth of what it will tolerate moisture-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff I see in Michigan needs to be pretty wet.
Right.
Really wet.
That stuff lives in a drought.
That's where the water goes, though, when they have water.
Right.
Right?
So it does well.
It does well.
Yeah.
It's horrible stuff. And one of my landowners, he has this killer draw that stuff is invaded, outcompeted the native cattails. Cattails are all gone. Impenetrable wall of Phragmites, right?
Yeah.
And this guy likes to hunt a little bit, even though he's hobbling around on a bad ankle. It bothers him to see his place like that. And he's going to have a guy come in next year and spray it with a drone. One spot, okay? It's going to cost him $3,000 between the chemical and the guy to spray it, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, extrapolate that times what's going on out there. You can't expect a guy who's making this guy's retired, right?
Right.
You can't expect a guy making his living to go, oh, okay, $32,000 for Phragmites. That's not going to happen.
Right.
It's not affecting the farmers and ranchers because it doesn't grow in the grazing pasture.
Right. It grows in the creek bottom.
The only thing that grows in their tillable stuff is what they allow to grow in their tillable stuff, right? They're very much in control of that, so they see it. Well, yeah, they're going to spend their hard-earned money, and I don't blame them, right?
Right.
So unless there's some federal help or something along the way to get rid of that crap. But anyway, we got off track. So picking where you shoot your birds.
Right.
Now, the other thing, if you are hunting with a partner and you drop a bird, the shooter, don't move. You stay right where you're at. A lot of people's natural instinct is to begin to walk towards the fall.
Right.
Don't do it because you've changed your sight picture.
Yep.
Okay? You stand there. Your mind has it. He's right there. He's right there. Okay? If there's an obvious marker.
Right.
Okay, now you can move and you know.
Right.
Right there.
There was one big golden rod.
I'm not telling you,
sticking
you
up.
walk sometimes 10 feet and you look back and go, oh, he's somewhere over there.
Just my first day, I was like, I know where that bird fell.
Yeah.
And I started walking toward it.
Yep.
Now, I didn't have a partner at this point.
Okay.
But I should have walked toward it instead of looking at my dog and I'm calling the dogs over because
Take your eyes
you were
off
exactly
it.
right. My dog did not see me shoot this bird.
Right.
My dog's off looking at the whole covey.
Yep.
And I'm calling and I'm looking, and pretty soon I might as well have been in another field looking for that bird.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Best you got is general area.
general area.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so if you're alone, okay, don't take your eyes off it.
Yep.
Your dog's going to come along.
He'll
Sooner
get
or
over
later.
there.
He'll get over there.
Right.
Right. But you ensure that you can narrow, that you are putting that dog indeed right where it fell.
Yeah.
Okay. This is very important. You yourself, you do not walk all the way right where it falls. Start looking around. That's last resort.
Okay.
When you walk right to the spot of a fall, if that bird has got some life in him, but it's still right in there, you're going to push him. Okay. The other thing is, I tell people, treat it like a crime scene. You walking all around in there, you're contaminating the area you're mixing it with human scent, knowing there could and most likely is very little bird scent there. You're disturbing that. You're messing. Mm-hmm. You're making the dog's job more difficult. Yeah. We want to do things that tilt the odds in our favor, right?
Right.
Do a little check on the wind. Our dog has not seen the fall, and you want to treat it almost like your
training session.
You know there's a bird there. We know there's a down bird.
I planted one there, so to speak.
You did. You shot one. That's where he fell, right?
So
check the wind. Stay back off where you know this bird fell,
mm-hmm.
and just try and get your dog come through there a few times on the downwind side.
Yeah.
And I always start with dead bird.
Right.
They'll learn through. So what we're doing here was success.
Yeah.
They'll learn that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll breeze through nothing, right? Breeze through there. And I've been really surprised sometimes, even with dead birds. Some don't give up quick. Sometimes they got to hit it just right.
Yeah.
Because they can miss it on the exhale if they're running fast.
We're talking so many molecules up here.
Their head's high, right? When they run through there, and then just keep them in there. Try a little closer, try a little farther.
Right.
Always watch that dog for any indication of any scent. Sometimes you'll see that dog, ooh, 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 and he goes, and he moves on.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not where he fell. He just showed you he smelled something.
Yeah.
Got his attention there. So stay back off of where that fell. But you walking there and looking down is last resort. But that's what a lot of people do when they shoot.
Yeah, I know I've done it.
Yeah.
And I do it. I did it the other this year.
Super common.
I went right there. Tie this to, there's dog breeds that are better at recovery of game.
For sure.
I mean, it's just more genetically in there. I always said in the NABDA puppy test, all we need is one small Munsterlander to know if we got a good field when it comes to tracking a pheasant.
Because in all your years, they consistently perform well.
And it's not because they were shorter
to
the ground like I got lucky with. This dog just applied its tracking ability.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you just have the average dog, which most people have an average dog. Is there things we can do in training to help us when it comes to looking for a dead bird?
Well, sure, you could. And so I always try and as closely as possible.
You just said, don't contaminate the area.
Right.
Work them into the wind.
But also, just like anything, the more a dog practices that skill, the more proficient they're going to become at it.
Right.
So I'm always looking for how can we replicate as close as we can to, we'll just take your scenario.
Yeah.
Okay? Bird's up, bang. Dog didn't have eyes on it, trying to call it in there. So we already know how we're going to conduct ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And start to cue that dog, dead bird, stay downwind of the area of the fall. Let's say you're setting up a training session for the dog, okay? You go out, work a bird with a dog, shoot it, okay? Retrieves or whatever he normally does, okay? And you're going on. And 5 minutes, 7 minutes later, you just keep on going. Well, we got a smoking fresh dead bird in our pouch. So when the dog is not looking, whip that thing off. You don't want your scent anywhere around it. Just take it by the feet and whip it as far as you can into some cover. And bam, bam, shoot your gun in the air. That dog will wheel around. What, where? You didn't see it. And have eyes on it. Take him over there. It's so much better than, I got one in the freezer. I'll put it in my backyard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so dead bird.
Close thing you got to a fresh shot bird.
You can do to what's going to happen.
Because
it's only been dead. Yeah, 5 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dead bird. dead bird, and work him into there. I wouldn't do that like with every bird, every session. I just go and make sure people are aware of that.
Right.
But that is something you can add to the mix. That's good hunting dead practice. That's the skill that needs to be developed.
And while, let's say, if things are going good, you do that once in a while. And I heard you say it, I maybe just want to reiterate it. You'll use a comment like people say hunt dead or just dead, or you don't use the word fetch then. Do you kind of just, when he's working an area where you think he might find it, do you kind of just say,
no, well.
Do you have a verbal?
So if you have done the trained retrieve and fetch is a command,
Okay.
it absolutely is not appropriate to use it there.
Okay.
Because at that moment, fetch what? We haven't found it yet.
Right.
So, right, that's what fetch is to a trained dog
Going on a
trained retrieve.
to a known location, a known object.
Pick that up.
Right.
Right? Well, we haven't located what is to be picked up yet.
Right.
This is the search for the object.
Right.
So I don't care what you use, dead bird or I don't know, whatever. Everybody's got their old habit, or you can pick one.
Yeah.
Who is that? Somebody,
the
outfitter I used to work for in Montana. I was still a friend of mine. We still get together and hunt every year. He's retired now.
Mm-hmm.
What did he tell me? He said, I used to have these guys from Georgia that said Dennis was doing something looking for a down bird. He said, dead. The guy goes, Dennis, it's supposed to be 2 syllables in dead. Dead. So maybe that should be your new one.
All right, I'll use dead.
Dead. But I don't care what you use. You're just looking for any kind of cue
Right.
that we have a bird down.
Right.
I need your help.
Right.
Right? Because that's going to be part of a dog's job.
Right.
At some point, we lean on them.
Right.
Even if they're not, there's tons of dogs that aren't great retrievers, but you don't lose many birds with them because they're good at hunting dead.
That's true. I know a lot of people's dogs will stand there, and they're not going to pick it up. But if you walk over there,
they found it. That's the big one.
Yeah.
For recovering game.
Yeah.
We all would love a dog that brings it
to
hand and puts it in. But I would take a great dog at hunting dead, but so on return with the object over a dog that's great at bringing stuff back, but stinks at being able to dig them up when you got a tough one on the ground.
Yeah.
You're going to have more birds in your pouch with a strong hunt dead.
Right.
Then, some dogs retrieve great in the backyard, but you take them hunting and they don't know how to find down game yet.
Right.
Now, I feel like I got to keep saying this. No first-year puppies are great at this.
Right.
They're not. People expect them to be.
There's first-year puppies that are lucky.
When people drop these dogs off, they got this hit list for these 10, 12-month-old dogs, and they're perceiving them as like, oh, my dog's not good. Your dog is normal, right? Your dog is normal.
That's what the teachers told my mom. Your son's normal.
Yeah.
He's just not applying himself yet. I have to be shown.
Yeah, you need experience.
I got to be shown,
you
not
need a lot
told.
of experience, I don't want to beat it to death, but I say, look, it only matters what you have at 3 years old.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Right.
Don't be influenced by what somebody else's 6-month, 8-month-old, what they're doing with them. You focus on your dog.
Yep.
It's not a race. Take your time, build them solid, build them right. And when you hit 3, everything should have come together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a sprint.
So no cupcakes with candles on them till they're 3.
Well, you can give them something for their birthday, But no, because that truly is when a dog hits young adult.
Like he's an adult.
He's a young adult.
Yeah, he's like 21 years old.
He's a young adult. And
maybe everything's developed in his cortex and experiences.
And at 3, we've got an accumulation of field experiences.
Right.
We've got fundamental training in place that's been reinforced for a good length of time now by 3, right? So we've achieved reliability and consistency in our core training things there. Yeah. And then so now he's young adult, and then that sweet spot, 4 to 8, 4 to 9, sometimes 4 to 10 if we're lucky, where it's all good times then.
Yeah. And then you're buying another dog because you need another one.
Gotta get another one going.
And don't shortcut. Don't go like, well, something else you told me. Maybe it's worth saying. The people who have that younger dog and they've got their 6-year-old, let's say, and they keep taking the 6-year-old out first on the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Give that puppy the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah, don't let your desire
There you go.
to shoot birds today
Yeah.
cause you to take the old pro in your honey hole. That's your puppy training spot. You should
Right.
always be trying to tee your puppy up.
Right.
That
The old guy
is-
knows how to hunt everywhere, ideally.
Yes, you. That's what I do. I give the tough assignments to my older dogs.
Yeah.
And if I have known high odds for bird contact here, you better believe youngest dog in my truck's going in there.
Yeah.
And that's an investment in the future.
Right.
Is what that is.
It's another part about patience.
Patience.
Patience. We can wrap it up with that one word.
Patience.
Patience.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Justin.
All right.